Today we are going to create the frequent flyer bolster cushion on the Janome Continental M17. This project features piping, an assortment of built-in decorative stitches, quilting and applique techniques. The links for this project are included in the description below. Following the manufacturer's instructions, attach the fusible fleece to the main fabric piece. Using a quilting ruler and the erasable fabric marker, draw a guideline 45 degrees across the fabric. Attach the HP2 foot and corresponding needle plate to your sewing machine. Stitch option 3 and engage the even feed key. Attach the quilting guide bar and using the needle plate markings, set the guide to 1 inch. Thread the machine top and bottom with complementary quilting thread. Line the needle drop position up with the 45-degree diagonal line. Using the line as a guide, stitch down the fabric, remembering to lock off at the beginning and the end. To start the second line of stitching, line the quilting guide bar up with the previously stitched line. Continue until the fabric piece is covered with diagonal stitch lines. Using the erasable fabric marker, draw a 45-degree line in the opposite direction to create a grid look. Line the needle drop position up with the guideline. Stitch along the guideline from one side of the fabric to the other. Now line up the previously stitched line with the edge of the AccuFeed Flex HP2 foot. Using the edge as a guide, stitch from one end of the fabric to the other. For the next stitch line the quilting guide bar up with the previous stitch. Stitch from one side of the fabric to the other. For the fourth line of stitching, line the edge of the foot up with the previous stitch. Using this as a guide, stitch from one side of the fabric to the other. Continue until the fabric piece is completely covered. Using the included template, attach the fusible webbing to the wrong side of the applique fabrics and cut out the triangles. Using the template, align the triangles onto the piece of quilted fabric. Following the manufacturer's instructions, he set the triangles into place. Change to the zigzag needle plate and attach the satin stitch foot, also known as the F foot. Select Decorative and Quilting Stitches. Select the Heirloom category. Using stitch 1, change the foot height to 5. This will accommodate for the fleece. Thread the machine with decorative thread to complement the individual triangle. Line up the red triangle with the edge of the applique fabric and stitch around all 3 sides. Select the quilt category and select stitch number 33. Adjust the foot height to 5. Change to a different thread and stitch around the second triangle. Select quilting stitch number 66 and adjust the foot height to 5. Change your decorative thread colour and stitch around the third triangle. Select quilting stitch number 86 and adjust the foot height to 5. Change your thread colour and stitch around the fourth triangle. Select the quilting style category and scroll through to stitch number 28. Change the foot height to 5. Stitch around triangle number 5. Keep working through until all the triangles feature decorative stitches. Select the Home key. Select the Sewing Application menu. Select Over Edge Woven Application and use option 1. Attach the overcasting foot, also known as the M foot, to the machine. Thread the machine with construction thread. Line the fabric up with the guide and stitch around all 4 sides of the 2 end panels of fabric. Depending on the size of the piping cord you are using to create piping for your project, you will either use the standard or the narrow sized piping foot. Select the optional foot tab. Select the piping application. Select the Make Cord option. Attach the piping foot to the machine. You can see the 2 grooves on the underside of the foot used to guide the cord. Fold the piping fabric strip over the cord matching the raw edges. Place the piping cord under the right groove of the foot and stitch down the length of the fabric. Repeat to create the second piece of cording. Insert the piping between the piece of quilted applique fabric and one of the end panel pieces. Pin the 3 layers together. Select Attach Cord option. Stitch down the seam, making sure the piping cord is positioned in the groove under the foot. Repeat at the opposite end with the second piece of piping. Tidy up the edges. Fold and press the fabric to create a casting. Bring the 2 raw sides together, matching up the piping, and pin. Attach the HP2 foot and the HP needle plate to the machine. Select Utility option 3 and engage the even feed key. Using the 1/2 inch marking on the needle plate, stitch down the raw edge. Don't forget to backstitch at the beginning and the end of the seam. Top stitch along the folded edge to create the casing. Turn out the correct way. Insert the bolster foam and thread the drawstring through each end to finish the project.